talking about vulnerability. The reason for that is last night I was scrolling through Netflix and I found this Netflix special. I decided to watch it and it really spoke to me in a lot of ways. I just wanted to share a little bit about what it was about. It's called A Call to Courage by Brené Brown. Brené Brown is actually a fellow Texan who studies fear and shame and vulnerability and courage. And at first I was like, what do you mean she studies them? Like, I didn't really understand, but she basically takes statistical data and talks to a lot of people and sees patterns and trends that have to do with being vulnerable. Honestly, at first I thought it was like one of those comedy like specials, but it actually turned out to be like a motivational life lesson. And it really spoke to me, so I just wanted to share a little bit about what I learned. If you haven't watched it, I suggest you watch it because she actually speaks on these things a lot more elegantly than I'm going to portray because she has a lot of years of experience. And so basically, vulnerability, she said, is choosing courage over your own comfort. It's the act of being emotionally exposed, and it's the act of uncertainty and uncomfortableness. And for me, that's a hard thing because uncertainty causes me to have anxiety. If you haven't seen my last video, I talk all about my anxiety. Vulnerability is a hard skill that I've had to learn. Honestly, vulnerability is the birthplace of love and belonging and joy. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of those. So love. Everyone wants love, everyone wants intimacy, and wants relationships. But the only way for you to gain those things is to allow yourself to be seen and allow yourself to see others. One of the things that attracted me to DeVille from the moment we met, day one, was his ability to be vulnerable with only me. And I say only with me because it showed me that he really was committed to this relationship with me, and he was able to let himself be vulnerable even though it could cause him harm in the long run. And that's what love is, basically putting your heart on the line and saying, this could be painful, but I'm willing to do this with you because I want to build a relationship. And from day one, me and DeVille had this unbreakable bond. And so being vulnerable allows you to build these meaningful and intense, deep relationships with people. And that's what we need in this world, more love and understanding. People nowadays are so afraid of getting hurt that they would rather not love at all. And for me, that is such a price to pay because love is one of the only things we have in this world aside from our knowledge. Giving up love completely just because you're scared you're going to get hurt is really a price that you pay in the long run. The absence of love, in my opinion, is suffering. And to a lot of people, that's probably not the case. Like, I don't need to love anyone. But deep down, we are hardwired for connections with love, and knowledge are the only things we have in this world. So I would never give up love for the fear of being hurt. Of course, love comes with the risk of pain, but the love that you get through that is so worth it. When she talked about belonging, she talked about the opposite of belonging being fitting in. And in my head, I was like, well, when you fit in, you belong to a group of people. So how is that opposite? But she explained that when you're fitting in, you're acclimating and you're conforming to society. But when you're belonging, you have to belong to yourself first. And that's really being who you truly are and embracing being different. And so that's why belonging is the opposite of fitting in, because when you belong, you're embracing what makes you unique. I thought that was really interesting because it was a different way for me to look at things. I never want to be the person who just fits in. I always want to be my best self and be true to myself. So that was a really interesting perspective, and I enjoyed that she gave statistical data to back it up. The next thing she talked about was joy. This one is probably the one that hit home the most for me because I'm definitely the kind of person that is always afraid to feel joy because of the fear of it getting taken away. I'm like, okay, everything's going good. What's gonna happen? You know, like, where's the problem? You know, like, my relationship's good, my family's good, something's gonna go wrong. And she said that a lot of people have the fear of feeling joy because they think it's gonna be ripped away from them. And she said over a study of a lot of people, the common thing that arose in people who fully leaned into joy without fear was gratitude. And when I heard this, my mind was like, Because if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I talk about gratitude a lot in some sense or form. And when she said gratitude was the common thing between people who fully felt joy without fear, I was like, that makes total sense to me. Being grateful is somewhat of a healing factor through all suffering. When we're grateful for what we have, we understand the magnitude of loss and suffering that people go through. When people lose family members or lose children or, suffer a trauma, we understand that greater because we are thankful for what we have. She said she got to sit down and talk to a lot of people who had suffered great trauma. And I'm talking about school shootings, genocide, losing their kids to disease, all of these traumatic things. And she said the common thing between all of these people that she spoke with was their surprise that the moments that they missed the most were the ordinary moments. When I heard this, I was like, wow, because I am constantly chasing these big, great moments. Like, we have to be making memories, we have to be going out, we have to be doing all these things, making the most out of our time. But the thing that the people who suffered missed the most was ordinary moments. Like, isn't that so crazy that these moments we take for granted on a daily basis are the moments that you will miss the most when you lose someone that you love? And if you've ever lost someone, you know this to be true. Like, you just missed those small, ordinary moments that you took for granted. And she talked about a couple who had lost their child to cancer, and he was 4 years old. And they said that when he was running around the house, he would constantly slam the patio door. He would go in and out slamming the door all day, and they would constantly get on to him saying, like, please stop slamming the door. After they lost their child, her and her husband would stand in front of the door and slam the door back and forth for 10-20 minutes just to hear the sound of the door slam. And I get so emotional when I think about this, because it really is those small moments that we don't even notice or don't even recognize as important that we miss the most when we lose someone. And so being grateful for the things that you have in your life, the small moments, the small things, is such an important part of allowing yourself to feel joy fully without the fear of it getting taken away from you. With that being said, you cannot be courageous without being vulnerable. There is no courage without vulnerability. And vulnerability is the birthplace of love and joy and belonging. And we need more of that in the world. In the political and cultural climate that we live in now, it is a poop show. I don't want to cuss on here, so I'm going to say poop show. It is a poop show, the world we live in today. I feel like I'm living in a parody movie. It is so bad. So in order for us to implement change, we have to be uncomfortable, and we have to have these uncomfortable conversations and be vulnerable. There is no other way. People avoid these uncomfortable conversations because they have a fear of saying the wrong thing or feeling the wrong way or not understanding. But we have to have these uncomfortable conversations to have change. And that's really something that political leaders and the leaders of our community need to recognize. And I'm not going to go on a tangent about political change and all this stuff, but I'm just saying that we need more vulnerable people in the world. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend you checking it out on Netflix. It's called A Call to Courage by Brené Brown. It's super impactful. She tells a lot of great stories, a lot of great moments that she had in her life that have proved to be true when it comes to vulnerability. So I would definitely recommend checking it out. If you haven't seen my video on anxiety, check that out as well, because I talk a lot more about being present in the moment and being grateful. So remember why you're grateful today. Make a short list. Think about it in your head. You don't even have to write it down. Make a short list in your head. Tell the people you love that you love them, because it can change in a split second. I just encourage you guys to be more vulnerable with the people in your life. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you guys in my next videos.